Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW Coach, and I am back again for another episode of my podcast, Macro Social Work Your Way. So I am so excited, as always, anytime when I am able to get an alum of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator to come on and talk about their journey of landing their macro job. And if you're new here, if you don't know what the Career Accelerator is, it's my comprehensive group career coaching program where I teach you in 3 months or less how to identify, apply, and interview for your dream macro social work job. So enough about that. If you want to learn more, click the link down in the episode show notes to learn more. But I'm so excited to have my guest who is a super busy person in their new macro job. Um, Hey, Alec, how are you? Thank you so much for volunteering today to come back on to come on the episode. How are things going for you? Tell the people a little bit about who you are as a human, maybe a little bit about your professional background.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Marthea. It's great to see you again. Thank you for inviting me to be here. I'm happy to talk about it. I really feel like my time in the accelerator has really changed the trajectory of my professional life and opened up my eyes in a lot of different ways. So, yeah, to answer the questions, my name's Alec. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I love skateboarding. I love making music and really, trying to do my absolute best to gear my professional life towards making a positive difference for, communities who have been disproportionately impacted by just the way that our culture and society has been formed and functions. So I've been really blessed to be able to find really effective ways to do that. Prior to where I'm at right now, which I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit, I started out working in the nonprofit sector. I was a direct care staff and later was a lead for a program that worked with the autistic community, mostly adults. I decided to I wanted to do a little bit more than that. So I got my undergrad in education. I was a special education teacher for 2 years. One of those was during the pandemic. So that was a very interesting change and transition, and really I learned a lot of things during that time about what I'm good at, what things I needed to brush up on. But I also learned that the academics part wasn't really what I was super into. I wanted to help out this community, but I was not much of a let me show you how to write an essay or let me show you how to do math kind of person. It was more I wanted to help folks navigate through life, social, emotional goals, working through systems, finding resources to support them. So I decided to go back to school for social work under the idea first that I wanted to be a counselor or a therapist of some kind. And for folks who are either graduates of an MSW program or going through it right now, that it's much more social work is a very vast and broad field. There's a bunch of stuff under that umbrella of social work, which I learned slowly as I went through the program. And once graduated, I really needed to decide what direction I wanted to go. And I had some clinical practice in my field placement, had some macro practice in the field placement, so I got a really good all around experience. Then when I decided I really wanted to go for something on the macro side of things, wasn't really sure what to do. And that's kind of how I found my way to you, Marthea.
I love that. So you said that you were, well, first, I'm going to dissect a few pieces of what you said. So you said that you were interested in macro, you were double like doing had your toe in the water in the macro area of work. Um, what was the process like for you because to like get a macro job before finding me? Had you hit apply or anything, gone to some interviews? What was that looking like for you?
So it was very haphazard, I could say. I wasn't really sure what to do. My idea, because so my macro experience from my field placement was working with um, the National Association of Social Workers in my local chapter. And so, which was a great experience, but that was kind of a narrow field. I thought, more policy, legislation. And that's really what I started looking for once I got out of school. That's all I really knew what to look for. And I was kind of just searching around state and government websites, doing a lot of Googling and applying for things here and there that weren't necessarily what I really wanted to do, but it's all that I knew, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. A lot of social workers find themselves in very similar situations where their target as far as career goals is just the things that they know about. But then when I engage with them in conversation, it's not really what they want to do or feel led to do. So to hear you talk about that and say it on the podcast is important, and I know it will help someone. So I want to talk about for a moment the fact that you had done some earlier direct client work, but then you became a special education teacher. Um, Coming from those different areas of your career, did you think it was possible to land a job where you're like, this is what I want to do? Because how I explain that is it's like what I see with a lot of social workers. They maybe have an education, bachelor's degree or undergrad degree. They may have multiple master's degrees, maybe something in business and social work, and they've really been struggling throughout the entirety of their career to make sense of it all, especially in relationship to their past work experience. So I just wanted to hear from you, was there ever any hesitation on your part to like, I'm never going to figure this out, right? Or make it all make sense, make the dots connect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would definitely describe most of my experience in that professional realm of my life is hoping that the dots would connect one of these days. That like everything that I've been doing, will someday come together, and I'm going to find a job. And it was really just hoping that luck would strike and something would find me. I did not necessarily have skills or even, you know, to be honest, like the confidence to feel like I could go find something that aligned with what I wanted. And I think a lot of that also had to do with I didn't really define for myself what exactly I wanted. I was kind of just taking what I could get based on what I thought what I could be accepted as uh, capable of doing by an employer.
I love that. And I kind of want to jump ahead a few talking points around, like, for the listeners. One of the key objectives of working with me inside of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator is career clarity. We get clear on what is the goal, what are we working towards, right? And so I always say, as of recently, this is the unsexy part that people before working with me don't really want to hear about, because like usually the focus is just teach me how to write a resume or give me the job titles. But there comes a point in your career when you want to move into a more aligned direction where you're making the dots connect, where you're doing work that really is focused on your strengths and your talents, that you're gonna have to sit down and do the clarity work. And so again, for the listeners, because Alec knows this, I have a whole framework that teaches you how to get clarity around your population, the issue you want your work to center on, how you want your day-to-day work to look, as well as creative ways to blend in things that you love to do outside of work so you can increase your career satisfaction. So I think this is a great stopping point. I'm kind of going to jump ahead and talk about, can you share with the listeners, and if you don't have it like fully like the written format in front of you, that's fine. Just tell them what you know from the top of mind. What did you decide on as far as this is the type of work I want to do when you were going through the clarity piece? And even more than that, like, what did you decide? You said, like, what did you decide that this is how I want my day-to-day work to look? Like, let's give them a before picture and then we'll compare and contrast to the actual job that you landed.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely I had in my head what I really wanted is I wanted to, use the talents and skills that I know that I have. That maybe it's not necessarily like going to be exactly how you would describe a previous job. It's like I know that I have some creative capabilities. Like I love to design. Like that was one of the things that I loved about being a special education teacher is I would go in on making like PowerPoint slides presentations. I'll animate them. I'll make them into like little cartoons that would help kids understand a little bit better. And that skill was something that like I know was within me and I was using for something that was job related. And it's like I want to do more of that. I want to do more of what I already have, what I care about as far as like my hobbies, my interests, and I want to do that in a way that is going to be helping people. That's going to be contributing to you know the well-being of folks who typically don't have a whole lot of support. Who in For me, it was like, I didn't have a population narrowed down entirely. Mine was more broad. And which you helped me to figure that out in terms of like, all right, what area of interest do you want to work with people in? If it can be different populations, like what segment of, life do you want to work with them in? And that really that helped me to narrow down what I wanted my day to day to look like. It's like, I want to be doing something creative, helping people out, getting to know folks, and contributing to some cause that's bigger than myself. And I know that's still kind of vague, which is kind of how it needed to be for a little bit, because I know that there were some boxes there that just need to be checked, and there were a lot of other things that could be a different way if it had to be. Like I don't have to work for such and such type of company. Um, it just had to hit those necessary boxes that basically, fulfilled my spirit. Is how I could say it.
Oh, I love that. I couldn't get off of mute fast enough. I remember when Alec was going through the career clarity phase. Again, this is for the listeners. And one of the things that you do in during that process is also identifying what are your transferable skills and experiences. And there is a homework assignment. That's not what I technically call it, but I've lost the word for it. There's a homework assignment where a checkpoint assignment where I have them flesh out what their transferable experiences are. And so I remember when Alex submitted me his checkpoint assignment, and I opened up the document and saw that he had recreated the whole like PDF that I have in the curriculum and made it more interactive and like streamlined it for him to use it and be able to type into the actual document because it wasn't a fillable PDF. And my immediate response was an email back to Alec and said, I was like, "You created this?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, is this something that you always do? This is not the norm for somebody to completely recreate a form and then make it so engaging in the way that he did. Like I believe it had color codes on, like color
Uh-huh.
coded and all of the things. I was like, Alec, this is your thing. This is what you should be doing. And it was like, again, the dots like connected because at that point, like Alec was saying, he was going through the clarity phase and like really trying to get clear on how he wanted the work to look, how should it look, and things like that. And I was like, this is your thing. You're the creative. I said, this is not the norm. And so then I began to ask more questions around like, do you do this all the time? He was like, yeah, I do it to make it more, user friendly for me and things like that. And I love to create these forms. I was like, Alec, we can get a job where you do just that. And so we'll leave it as that and let it be a teaser, but he'll talk more about the job that he landed. So I love that you talked about that. Did you, so you talked about before working with me, like the challenges that you came across with finding macro jobs. Was there anything else that you like encountered as far as a challenge? I know you talked about like finding something that really spoke to your spirit rather than doing something because you think that's the only thing that you could do. Were you going on interviews? Did you maybe get some denials? Were you having trouble tailoring your resume or job searching or anything like that?
All of those things. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that it's funny too because it kind of teases it a little bit too. What you were mentioning about that conversation with the document thing. You pulled something out of me that I didn't even realize that I did. Like, oh, that is something that I could actually like leverage and talk about. I can do these things. So yeah, that huge thing for me was that when I was doing resumes, applications, everything, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to translate my transferable skills. So when I would read, I would read a job description and I would be like, okay, I got to do exactly that, and I got to do all of exactly that, and I would disqualify myself so many times from things that I probably had a pretty good chance of, showing that I was a good candidate for if I knew better how to, really extract my past experiences. Interviews was nightmare. I didn't do well in interviews. I didn't know how to prepare. I didn't know how to answer questions very well in the moment or really get to the heart of what they're asking questions. Like I thought of it as just like trying to check whatever boxes I thought were there, but um, I felt like I didn't speak the language of job searching altogether, if that makes sense.
It does. It most definitely does. And for everyone that's listening, this is why it's so imperative, and that's why it's a major part of the curriculum. You have to be able to master the fundamentals to job searching. So that's resume writing, interviewing. I even put in their career planning, even though people don't include that. But also don't, it's not a one and done process. It's an ongoing thing. So one of the cornerstones of the curriculum inside of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator is I teach my coaching clients how to stay on top of the current trends, right? So what that may look like is just apply to a job just so you can go through the interview process to see what is the new way of interviewing. So when you are ready to get out into the job market, you're not like a deer in headlights and don't really understand like what your next move should be. And so it's very important to learn the fundamentals. And this is how you stay fresh and don't become a dinosaur. So, Alec, how did you learn about my career coaching program and what were your thoughts? What thoughts did you have or what information that you received helped you say, like, I'm going to sign up for it?
This is kind of when I think back on it, it's kind of a wild story to me. So it was a few months before I graduated. I was visiting a friend of a friend's family, and it was a conversation I was having with someone who was a clinical professional. He was in the medical. He had a private practice, and he was a younger guy, and he was talking about how he had recently completely changed his outlook and the way that he approaches his professional life. And he was telling me, like, I saw a career coach, and a lot of people don't really think about that as an option, but I'm going to tell you what I learned from this career coach who focused on what I do specifically. I really took control over my professional life and started to center what I want and how to get there. And that stuck with me. And at the time, like I said, I was still in school. I hadn't graduated yet. And um, about a month after I graduated, when I started to, really bomb interviews and see that I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Um, I just decided to look up career coaches. So I started Googling career coaching, social work, macro social work, and on Google, I found your Instagram. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna go check out Marthea Pitts. Let's see what this is. And I was like, there's no way. There's an MSW coach, really, like someone who focuses exactly on my degree. It felt like the universe was playing a joke on me. It was just too perfect. I was like, that it would be ridiculous of me to not really deeply consider, signing up. And so I listened to a lot of your podcasts. I ended up, like, I was following you, seeing everything that you were doing, set up the meeting, the meet and greet, and I was sold pretty much right away because I think I was pretty. You get out of school and you start to look at the debt that you have to pay off. It's like I got to figure out what I'm doing pretty quick, and I don't want to get into something that I don't want to do. Like I just spent way too much time and money to get into something I don't want to do. And yeah, just through that experience is how I found you, and it was just it would have been un, unreasonable to not like look into it.
I love that. I love that. The seed was planted and then you you paid attention to the green flags. I've been talking a lot
Hmm.
to people about on Instagram and my stories about don't stop running past the green flags. I'm notorious for that. Like run right past it because you think on some level it's too good to be true. But no, it does happen that way. Pay attention to those. So I love that. So let's fast forward to you pay me your money, sign up. What was your journey once you were in the program? Um, like, did you have any issues with understanding, like, when calls would be? What did you experience inside of the community? Just talk about, like, what your overall experience was inside of the accelerator.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I love that question. And especially because, that was the question that I had about, wanting to get started. It was like, all right, what's the cost of the program going to be? And you were upfront about everything. And, it made complete and perfect sense. So when I got into the actual program and I had access to all the modules and the community and everything, you could see I could see people who are finishing, like the cohorts before me. Um, there was this confidence and this like understanding the shared language that people were using, and really focusing on their success and their growth. That was really encouraging for me because that's always a big thing is, before you buy something, you usually want to check out the reviews to see what people are saying about it. And that was, my mind was put at ease almost immediately. And you could really see people from all different backgrounds, all different disciplines, and different goals, different ideas of what they want to do. And they were all, you could see that they were all creating that roadmap for themselves with your help. Because it wasn't just like, oh, Marthea is going to show you how to get this one type of job. It's like, no, Marthea is going to show you what kind of job you want. She's going to help you pull it out of yourself and get you there. And that was very clear for me. So, um, does that answer your question? I don't know if
It
I missed any of
does.
it.
And Alec always gives me some new words. Shared language. I love that. I'm gonna borrow that most
Hey,
definitely. And it's because the participants inside of the accelerator really are mastering and understanding the strategies and techniques. So they talk about a breadcrumb method, they talk about three P's, and we're not just throwing around terminology, lingo. They understand the concepts behind it. So I loved how you explained that. Um, were there any challenges you experienced while inside of the program? And be as honest. Well, I know you'll be honest, but were there any challenges? For example, maybe did you get stuck somewhere? Were you unclear about something?
yeah, there were a couple things that I had trouble with really moving forward with. I think one of the things is the professional mission statement that, there's a lot to that. And that was hard for me. That was really difficult for me to, you know, basically come up with a statement for myself that explains who I am, what I want to accomplish, the type of impacts that I want to have. Because before it was like I had some pretty vague ideas. Like it was very fuzzy. It was all in the same direction, but it wasn't nailed down. So if I had to explain that to an employer, I wouldn't be able to very well. I would have to rely on them to connect all the dots for me. So, um, which I think is a good thing that I got stuck on that because I really had to think about it a lot. And honestly, I still refine that, based on what I've experienced after the accelerator. With the role that I'm in now, which I'm very happy with the role that I'm in right now. But I also see that it's also a stepping stone to something else. And what I'm learning here right now is going to feed back into that professional mission statement and help me guide where I'm going next. Which that was a tool that I didn't have before. So yeah, got stuck there, and I'm glad I did, and I still kind of get stuck there sometimes, but it's a good thing. It's growth.
Yeah, and just for everyone listening, elements of Alec's mission statement was in how he introduced himself at the top of this podcast, right? So the mission statement serves many, many different purposes. One of them is like the infamous first question of any interview, which is, so tell me about yourself. It helps you stay focused on what the goal is, so you're only applying to aligned jobs. It helps you in career planning and mapping out what your next career move. It helps you in resume, right? So it's multi many different reasons why you have to create a mission statement. But just so you all know, you heard elements of that when he introduced himself at the top of the recording. So what was your breakthrough, right? Was there a moment for you where things turned around? Maybe it wasn't just regarding the mission statement. Maybe it was something else where it's like, oh, it's all clicking for me.
Yeah, that reminded me of something else that I would get stuck with, and some we talked about a little bit earlier about how I wouldn't have the easiest time with connecting my past experience to a job that I was looking at. I didn't feel like I was qualified for things. So, you would have us go and find a number of jobs that we found interesting that we wanted to talk about, and we'd set up a time with you to go through those job descriptions and our resume and our experience and talk about here's where these things align, here's where this clicks over. And I didn't there were so many things that I skipped over because I was so concerned about how the exact wording was when you took like 2 seconds to be like, oh no, that's this. Like you did this. So you did this at all in this job for this period of time. That is relevant to this. And I would have just completely ignored it. And that was another kind it's another kind of like language thing that I felt like I didn't speak the right language before. And you showed me how um, you don't have to fit exactly the way they wrote the job description. In fact, if you do, you're overqualified for that job. So if you can make what you did align with what they're asking for, or you could explain it in a way, like it was almost like you gave me permission to think that way because I didn't feel like I had that permission at first. Like, oh no, I have to be exactly what they're already asking for. And that's something that nobody teaches you about, looking for jobs, about how to apply and how to see if you're qualified for something. So um, that felt like there was a big eye opening there when we went through that process together. And you showed me how what I had done in the past does apply to this. And in fact, like there's other things that they might not be asking for, but would contribute to that role. And that's a huge thing to bring up in interviews. Just like it's, yeah, I felt so much more of a sense of like control and confidence and ability and self-worth that yeah, it was unlocked through just like the way that you brought that out of what, my own experience that I wasn't really reading into.
And Alec had tons of valuable experience. He had created like whole new ways of work in his past organizations. I love that. And so just for everyone listening, as a part of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator, everyone gets a one-on-one 2 hour macro resume writing intensive with me. And that's where I take you on a deep dive to uncover what experience in your background makes you the unicorn for the jobs you say you want. And so Alec, just like many people, well, everybody walks away from that session with a complete like shift, a paradigm shift to because they now know and see it in black and white that they really do qualify for the jobs they want. They always have. They probably qualified for them before they had all of these multiple degrees and years of experience. But then they also learn how to uncover that for themselves in the future and then write their resume. So let's get into the thing that we've been teasing the whole conversation. Tell the people like what type of macro job you landed. What does your day-to-day work look like? And then I'm going to have some additional questions after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work in local government. That's as detailed as I can get about that. But I'm a learning and development specialist. So you see some of my like old education um, backgrounds coming in here. So I develop curriculum and learning materials for a brand new program that's instituted at a very large level that is completely redoing the way that data and records have been managed. And it's with a focus on repairing harms to communities who have historically been hurt by data management, record usage. I mean, there's all kinds of studies about, folks' data being used inappropriately. So at a larger government level, trying to make these changes it's I feel incredibly lucky to be a part of this because it's new, it's brand new, and I am one of the folks who's in charge of how are we teaching this to people? Like, how are we showing other employees how we're going to start implementing things in an equitable and responsible way? Why is it important? So my day to day is, I get to utilize a lot of my creative interests and skills. So I'm making learning materials with a lot of creative freedom about, like we don't want to do things the way that people have always done them. So, if anybody out there has ever had like either a big corporate or a government job, those trainings are usually pretty boring, very flat, very gray, like not a whole lot going on. So we got a lot of creative freedom to make this interesting to try to appeal to folks, and really get some buy-in. So yeah, I get to learn a lot, which is big for me. I love continuing to learn. I never thought that I would get into anything regarding like records management and data governance and such, but it's fascinating. I'm learning a completely new discipline, and I'm enjoying every second of it. And then being able to translate that into a creative way and teach it to people, really extract what folks need. Um, which, this is, I would never have thought to look for a job like this. But like I had said about the mission statement and like recognizing what my skills were, when I saw this posting and I went to an information session and I saw like, oh, my boxes are being checked. This is what I want to do. Like I didn't know it would look like this, but this is what it looks like. So um, yeah, I wouldn't have found this if it weren't for what I learned in the accelerator. And um, yeah, I'd be happy to jump into any more like details
Yeah,
there. I
I
know I kind
love
of put a
that.
lot out.
No, I love that, right? And because data sharing, and Alec knows this, he's heard me jump on the soapbox. Data sharing is a huge area of concern for national organizations, macro organizations. And so to be a part of, like he's explained, truly groundbreaking work, which is on the the tip of everyone's tongue when you're talking about national level systems change, where even international work is about how are we going to protect our people's data? Who's going to own it? How are we going, how is this, who's going to have legacy ownership of it? And then how do we not make our own systems susceptible to just nonsense? But to hear your work is even more centered from an equity lens. I love that because that is Alec's mission statement and three P's, right? And so he's truly taken all of the things that he loved to do because Alec in his free time, what he uncovered in his clarity work is like he loves to read historically related. Am I remember that correct? Like historically
Oh yeah.
related books and things like that, right? So he's all about making certain, like you said, the groups and populations, the people have equitable access in different areas of like how we show up in society. And so this work really truly is groundbreaking. Ali, I just want to commend you. Now that I've heard even more about your work, you really truly are creating a career lane for yourself to be a subject matter expert on something that will never go away, especially in this day and age where AI use is on the rise. Technology is ever expanding. I love that. And this is what the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator is about. It's about helping social workers get into every space so we can be in the rooms and be a part of this work. So I love that. I love that for you. What was the timeline? What did the timeline look like for you to get the actual job offer? More so like, how long had you been applying before you got the interview for this specific job? And then once you interviewed, how long did it take you to like get your offer letter and then start your job?
Yeah. So yeah, this is a wild process the way that all worked. I ended up getting a job in the same larger organization. It was a much lower level, so I could see these postings coming up, and I was still in the accelerator at that point. And it was, I think it was my last month in the accelerator when I found this particular job. I applied for it. Um, from applying to actually starting my first day was, I want to say, it was no more than 2 months. It was no more than 2 months, which was pretty quick. I think as far as, organizations like that, as far as how they move. But yeah, it was a application process. There was a recorded interview first that there were questions that I was sent beforehand, and I gave pre-recorded answers, and then there was a virtual interview face to face, and then there was a second virtual interview after that. So lots of communication back and forth within 2 months before getting that offer letter, and then yeah, starting pretty quick after that.
I love that. And yeah, 2 months is fairly fast for a governmental
Mhm.
organization, agency. That was really good. I'm going to ask this question because this is more so for the listeners. I never know where people are when they find my content. Did you need a license to do this work, Alec?
Nope. I got one anyway, but I didn't need it. No one asked for it, and I don't use. I mean, it's going to lapse in the next year. I ended up I got the LMSW because I thought that it would help, but absolutely not necessary unless you are looking for a job that requires that specific license. You don't need it. It's extra tests and extra money you don't have to do unless it's exactly what you want to do. So, yeah, I appreciate that you had brought that up. It's like, don't go chasing that license unless there's a job that says you must have it.
Yes. And then also what I wanted to talk about was the fact that you talked about how you took the lower level position in the governmental organization. And I want people to understand that that wasn't just yeah, Alan needed a job, but it was also a strategy behind that, right? We had sat down. He was like, this is the thing I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to give you a strategy to take it and make it work for you and not get stuck in it. And even before he hit apply on that, we talked about like, potential jobs to target to get into the system to then get where you really want to be. So I want to be clear with everyone, like also what I teach my coaching clients is how to be strategic in every move, every opportunity, everything that you do in your career journey so it makes sense for you. And so what Alec did was a very strategic move and it worked out well for him. And so I just want to commend you on that. So Alec, as we wrap up, is there anything that you can share with someone who's maybe on the fence about investing and coming inside of the accelerator, hiring me as a career coach, or maybe just something you want to share and leave with the people?
I would say if you're on the fence, get off the fence. It's a pretty clear value from my experience, and I'm sure there's tons of other people who attest to it as well. That you're investing in yourself. That's what you're really doing. And there's I feel like I got more out of the accelerator program than just like job searching strategies and career clarity. There's a piece of confidence and understanding around a world that I was very unclear about before I went into the accelerator. So it is, when I think about like the dollar value to it, it's like I waste that amount of money every year, like easily. Like, and this is a long-term value that is going to continue to pay off. And so much so that, you're not paying me or anything to come back and talk about it. I'm excited about what this has done for me. So as soon as you sent me the email asking if I'd be lunch, like, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to give a testimonial. It's worth it. It's worth it. Ask whatever questions you have to ask to, make yourself feel comfortable. But I will say it's worth it. So take
I
the risk.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. Most definitely, the return on investment is key. Something you said made me want to ask this last question. I promise. um, how has your personal life changed now that you have a job, a good quality job? You said you feel aligned. Like, has there been a difference in your personal life? So as an example, we have a lot of people who are like, I'm thriving now. And again, it's not always financially or monetarily, but just like, and I'm living, I feel like I'm good. I'm not struggling in any kind of way. So what does your personal life look like?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like financially and personally, it is a very new experience for me. Like I'm very accustomed to, being on a shoestring budget and being in a position now where I don't have to be. My life is completely different. Having a sense of satisfaction with liking what I do, which is another wild experience. Like, cause like I believed in what I've done a lot of times, but I haven't always liked what I do. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. But like being able to believe in what I do, like what I do, not have to worry about, you know, prioritizing one bill over another. It's a wild experience. Yeah, thriving would be a great way to put it. It's a completely huge paradigm shift, I would say. Like that I've experienced. And it's incredible. It's not
Yes.
I'm not a billionaire or anything like that, but when you're used to being broke, like having money left over after bills is something that's pretty amazing.
It is. Yes. I remember being able to pay all of my monthly bills out of one
Hmm.
check. It was like, what is happening here? Yeah. So I'm excited for you. This is most definitely the vision coming to life. And Alec's job is not anything that just came by, passively. He had to put in the work. He put in the time. I know he did. He got some rejections. He battled the confidence issues, but he still stayed consistent and diligent in the efforts, and he trusted the process. He didn't try to remix anything and do it differently. He was like, I'm going to learn it the way that you're teaching it, and I'm going to just see if it works. And it did, and it paid off well for him. And so, again, Alec, thank you so much for coming back to share your experience. I know it's going to help not just one person, many people. And so, for the listeners, if you are interested in learning more about the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator, I encourage you to click the link down in the episode show notes and visit macroandpaid.com. And there is a link there to join the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator waitlist, where there's a detailed page giving you all of the information you need to know about the accelerator, as well as an opportunity to schedule a free 15-minute get to know you chat with me, which Alex referenced earlier. It's just where you come talk to me about what your goals are. I talk about how the program works. I assess if we would be a good fit. And it doesn't cost you a thing. So again, I'm so excited that Alec made time in his busy, busy schedule over there doing groundbreaking work to come share his experience. And until next time, I'll talk to you all later. Happy macro career planning. Bye.